All right, I'd like to announce that a quorum is present. The meeting is duly called, and notice of the meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act. The time is 6:01 p.m. We ask that all those in attendance conduct themselves respectfully at all times during this meeting. Any outbursts or disruptive behaviors may result in your removal from this evening's work session. The following board members are in attendance: Tracy Miller, Allison Lasan, Catherine Sells, Dr. Buddy Bonner, Christy Hassett, Jenny Prosnick, Sheila Taylor. I will open us in prayer. Father, we come to you with generally heavy hearts and seriousness by which we take these roles. But in the last few weeks, heavy hearts and a soberness about what's happening in communities across the nation and what is at stake here for us to provide a system of safe schools, a system of productive schools that drive great achievement, that provide opportunities for kids, and yet we recognize that it's a broken world. And in a broken world, people do stupid things. And so we work our best and do our best to provide a safe environment. We do our best to provide good learning. We do our best to provide the best hiring practices, the best teachers, the best support structure, the best superintendents, the best safety and security people, the best assistant chiefs. And we just pray that all of us will come together with wisdom, with sensitivity and sympathy for those things that are happening, with a soberness and readiness to take on the issues that are important, with vigor, and to defend them with our community as we reach out to our community for partnership in what comes before us. We ask tonight that any decisions we make or the deliberation that we have will be thoughtful, be respectful, be kind in nature, and it'll be productive for our constituents, which are the students, families, and taxpayers of our community. For this, we are grateful and thank you. In Jesus' name, amen. Okay, well now yes, we are going to convene into. We're now going to convene into closed session as authorized by Texas Government Code Section 551, specifically 551.071 and 089. The time is 6:03 p.m. Okay, we'll now reconvene into open session. The time is 6:44 p.m. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance and the Texas Pledge. Do I need to do anything from a closed session? No. All of our students enjoy thriving, productive lives in a future they create. Our mission statement: students, staff, and community design and implement a learning organization that provides engaging, innovative experiences every day. LISD Cornerstones, Ms. Maloney.
Thank you, President Miller. Our I statement for this evening is: I use resources in an effective and efficient way that serves others. Reflecting on the district's opportunities and challenges, it is important to prepare early to project short-term and long-term needs. Together, we will leverage the district's assets and attributes for a future that serves our school community and ensures financial sustainability.
Thank you, Ms. Maloney. We have no speakers this evening and few other interested attendees, so why don't we move to Superintendent Report. Dr. Rapp, is that going to be me? Yes. Okay. We have decided to send a letter to the legislature again. So let me read the letter that we're going to send, and one of our staff members is going to hand deliver this night, this letter tomorrow. Miss Jamie Clark. All right. April 3rd, via email. House Public Education Committee members, the Honorable Brad Buckley, Chair, P.O. Box 2910, Austin, Texas 78768-290, regarding House Bill 11 and House Bill 100. To Representatives Buckley and members of the House Public Education Committee, as officials who are charged with the trust of public education for the 49,000 students across 127 square miles of the Lewisville LISD community in Denton County, and is one of the largest school districts in Texas, we are submitting these considerations related to the funding formula for Texas public schools as referenced in filed bills HB 11 and HB 100. In LISD, our legislative priorities uphold that rising costs require an increase in the amount in the entitlement for school districts. As the Board of Trustees, we are held accountable to our taxpayers and have a long history of keeping the tax rate low. Lewisville ISD is one of a handful of districts in the DFW area that has not asked our voters to increase the M&O tax rate, though through a Vader. Efforts to provide property tax relief, to invest in schools, and to increase teacher salaries should be sustainable well into the future. Property tax compression alone simply reduces tax revenue at the same amount that our recapture payment is reduced. We urge you to strike the right balance between investments that reach classrooms and efforts to reduce property tax payments. An increase in the basic allotment is the best way to address the rising costs in LISD, the largest employer in our 127-mile footprint. Inflation has impacted every area of our district since 2019. Fuel costs have increased 28%. Insurance costs due to many weather-related events and cyber threats targeting public schools have increased by 28%, and utility costs have increased by 25%. Lewisville ISD's 6,400 members have also faced rising inflationary costs in their household budgets. At the same time, health insurance premiums through TRS Active Care have increased 14% since 2019. In the same time period, we have increased staff pay by 8%. Rising costs have a critical impact for education throughout our state, and while LISD has increased the local health care contribution, the state has not increased its contribution since 2002. A significant increase in the basic allotment is needed to provide compensation increases that are adjusted for inflationary challenges in our state. Prioritizing all increased funds to the basic allotment provides the best mechanism for us to address staff compensation needs in LISD. The basic allotment increases should be prioritized over any increases to the teacher incentive allotment, which does not address salaries for all staff. Higher operational costs and unfunded state mandates have made it difficult for us to increase pay for staff at the rate necessary to keep pace with inflation. Some fiscal year 2022 studied examples include LISD paid $14.5 million more in transportation costs than the state transportation allotment provided the district. LISD paid the required additional $7 million more in TRS contributions, above the statutory minimum the state provides. Competitive salaries in the suburban North Texas labor market drive salary costs. LISD has paid $3.6 million more on safety and security of our schools than was provided by the safety allotment in the state funding formula. Safety and security has not been adequately funded by the state, but has been a major priority for LISD Board of Trustees and the community. In summation, public education in Texas is underfunded, especially in light of inflationary costs. A basic allotment figure is paramount for all districts in Texas. It is the foundation for how all additional funding in the school finance formula is calculated. It would take about a $900 increase to the basic allotment, costing the state $13 billion over 2 years, to help schools fully recover the inflationary cost increases over the last few years. Efforts to invest in public education are appreciated, but so far have not approached the amounts that many Texans want to see invested in schools at a time when the state has a record surplus. We are proud, just as we know you are, of the great workforce in Texas, which could not have been achieved without the foundation of the great Texas public school system. Lewisville ISD has built a robust local education system that represents a large engine in the success of our local economy, and we are ready to partner with you in ensuring quality education systems for all students in our state. An increase to the basic allotment is an investment in the future of Texas. We appreciate your service to the great state of Texas. Signed, Dr. Lori Rapp, Tracy Miller, Board President, Allison Lasan, Board Vice President, Catherine Sells, Board Secretary, Dr. Buddy Bonner, Sheila Taylor, Jenny Prosnick, Christy Hassett. Copy to Senators representing LISD, Senator Parker, Senator Springer, House Representatives representing LISD, Representative Baumgartner, Representative Capriglione, Representative Hayes, Representative Patterson, Representative Timish. House Appropriations Committee members, Article 3. Senate Finance Committee members, Article 3. This will be emailed tonight and sent tomorrow. Okay, next item. Chief of Schools, Ms. Litchfield.
Good evening, Dr. Rapp, President Miller, and our wonderful school board. Tonight we have Ms. Manya Crow and Ms. Jill Adams to share the annual counseling and social work update.
Good evening.
Good evening.
We appreciate the opportunity to be here. We wanted to start with just an overview of the roles and the services that our department supports. We have a combination of about 150 campus counselors and then specialized positions such as student assistance counselors, social workers, and then those that also work in our Choices and SAP programs. There's a combination of programming that we support. Some of it is programming that all students in LISD receive, such as our guidance curriculum, character teaks, et cetera. And then some of the programs are based on a specific need.
We have a lot of academic support. So we have the AVID program, Collegiate Academy, our dual credit program, in addition to our GO centers, Future Pathways curriculum in grades 6 through 12. In addition to supporting our students with our McKinney-Vento and ESSA, we have a new grant this year with Region 11 called the REACH grant, and that serves our over 1,000 students who are served in McKinney-Vento, our Federal Homelessness Act. You know, we really can't talk about the counseling and social work program without talking about where we are with mental health. I think we all know that there is a mental health crisis. So if you look at these statistics, in 2021, 4 in 10 students felt persistently sad, hopeless, and nearly 1/3 experienced poor mental health. And in 2021, more than 1 in 5 students seriously considered attempting suicide, and 1 in 10 attempted suicide. United Way of Denton County does a dashboard for our own community. So 1 in 5 people, that includes adults, experience a mental health crisis each year. 11% of children in Denton County are diagnosed with a mental illness, and Texas is 50 out of 51 for access to mental health care. So if you think about our 49,000 students and over 6,000 staff members, those statistics speak loudly. When you look at responsive services is just not just crisis response. The best model for responsive services is prevention, remediation and intervention, as well as crisis response. So when you look at our outcry data in Lewisville ISD, you can see suicidal ideation and non-suicidal self-injury, which is cutting, self-harming, and then our violent behavior ideation, you can see our statistics. But there is good news. The good news is that our kids are resilient, and we know that the best way to support their mental health is connection to their school and to their families.
When we talk about being connected, we operate from 3 basic tenets, and that is the belief that all people are doing the best they can with what they have, that we serve our community and our students with an unconditional positive regard, and also the belief that behavior is a way to communicate. It is our goal to look at the why behind the behavior instead of just the what, because our kids are trying to reach out and let us know that they need support, and we want to make sure we meet them where they are. Review Payne is the guru of poverty, and she has added kind of to her repertoire the concept of emotional poverty, which is where there's a deprivation of essential needs that connect to emotional and mental health. She speaks of a concept called emotional noise, which is any experience that any of us have, traumatic, life-changing, that we are going to bring that into whatever situation we are in, whether it be school or work. So we make sure that we are also asking ourselves, what are our parents and students bringing to the table? So we talk about student experience and learning. The concept of felt safety is when a student comes into the classroom with all of their life experiences, how safe do they feel based on those circumstances? And so we make sure that we operate from the student's definition of felt safety, because oftentimes those traumas can come into the classroom and they get stuck in that fight, flight, or freeze place. We know that predictability is a protective factor, and schools are rich in that with our schedules and structures. Mm-hmm. When we have students that transition back from DAEP or JJAEP or even a treatment facility, we make sure that we talk to them and have transition plans in place. We want to make sure we don't tell kids from one to the other, I hope everything goes well. So we talk about trusted adults and who those people are, and it's really interesting sometimes who they pick can even be a surprise to the teacher themselves, but it's always a great connection that they're able to make. So we talk about student learning. Maslow before Bloom is the notion that all of our basic needs must be met before we are ready to learn. I had a student one time when I worked in high school. He was referred to me because he began to come into first period and exhibit a pattern of very disruptive behavior. He was cussing out students, he was cussing out the teacher, he was flipping tables over. So as we began to work together, he disclosed to me that his mom had a new boyfriend, and the boyfriend did not want to deal with him. So mom had arranged to drop him off at a friend's house after school each day and then come and pick him up the next morning to take him to school. And while he had a couch to sleep on, the person's house that he was staying at said, "I do not have enough money to feed another mouth." And mom said, "He'll be fine." So once we realized that food was what was missing, and once he began to eat, there was miraculously no more disruptive behavior. We tracked his office referrals for the rest of the year, and there was not a single one. That speaks to how much we have to ensure that our kids' basic needs are met before they're ready to learn.
So when we look at some of the data for our department, these are our office visits. We track all of our student interface of our counselors and specialized positions through Skyward. And you can just see the vast amount of office visits on here, and these are different visit reasons, so students are definitely counted multiple times as they see the counselors. When you look at the reasons that we're tracking, we have categorized them into 5 different categories. So we have academic, guidance, the responsive services, parent and community contact, and then system support. We continue to look at trends in our office visit data. This helps our counselors make informed decisions about what groups they may need, what parent education we may need to bring forward. We can utilize it even on a campus level to see, are we spending a lot more time with our 10th graders versus our 12th graders? And what's not captured in Skyward is a lot of our community outreach and our parent education programming and just planning for programs. And so that is a goal for next year, is to really capture the time and effort that comes with planning all of those macro pieces to support all of our students in the district.
When we talk about touch points, this is an individual interaction or a group interaction with a counselor, and we certainly have a goal of ensuring that all of our students interface with a counselor at some point in their journey. And so those data points reflect where we are in the process. And we look to increase those touch points, making sure that a student has at least 2 of those in a school year. So we talk about the role of the professional school counselor. The CREST Award is a measure of how effective the implementation of the Texas Model for School Counseling is at a campus. We are very proud to say that we had 41 campuses recognized this year in the state out of 286, so we continue to lead the pack on that. The Texas Counseling Association speaks to the role of the school counselor, stating that they play a critical role in campus safety, in students' mental health, in their academic success. Nearly 50% of students with a mental health condition drop out of school, indicating a need for school-based and school-connected supports. The information at the bottom of this slide is the outline of the role of the school counselor and the alignment to the Texas model that has been written into code.
So really the best part of every update for everyone is our student voice. And so we asked our counselors if they would be willing to share a few student stories with us, and they have given us a name change to protect the privacy of the student. But I'm going to talk about Jonathan. So Jonathan's a 16-year-old junior at one of our high schools. During the fall suicide prevention lesson, in all of our suicide prevention lessons, we have what's called an exit ticket. And what this is it's an opportunity for students to fill out a ticket or a Google form if they are needing some additional support themselves or if they are worried about a friend. And so one of Jonathan's friends put his name on the exit ticket. So his counselor called him down and met with him, and during their meeting, Jonathan disclosed that there had been some physical and emotional abuse at his house, and that his parents had kicked him out, and so he was sleeping on friends' couches. So that puts him in the category of an unaccompanied youth, which is served under McKinney-Vento for students who don't have fixed and adequate housing, and then unaccompanied youth don't have an active caregiver at that point in time. He is a GT kid. He was taking AP classes. His dream has always been to go and study business, and he wanted to work on Wall Street, and he had started to fail his classes. And so in that conversation, the counselor, of course, reported to CPS and has had a lot of interface with that. The counselor is still supporting him with academic supports. We have our specialized positions jumping in to see if do you have hygiene needs. He also is on one of our athletic teams, so, making sure he has the right equipment for that, making sure he's got money if there's dinner for a late event, and just making sure that his needs are met. Also doing some individual counseling, and really trying to work with the parents as well as they navigate this.
So I want to introduce you to Tiffany. She is a 12-year-old 7th grader at one of our campuses. Tiffany got to know her counselor in 6th grade because she struggled tremendously with that transition from elementary to middle school. And she began to exhibit some high anxiety and some self-injurious behavior. So earlier this year, Tiffany was caught at school with a vape, and so she was going to serve a DAEP placement. And when the counselor reached out to the parent to say, hey, is there anything else we can do, any other supports you feel like would be helpful, Mom disclosed that Tiffany's dad had died unexpectedly 2 weeks earlier. And so when we talk about the concept of emotional noise, this is who Tiffany was bringing into the classroom for the last 2 weeks, and nobody knew at all. So we began to put supports in place for Tiffany and for Mom. Mom was not working at the time of Dad's death, and so they lost the sole income that they had. So we really had to get to work quickly to talk through how to connect to services that would help pay the mortgage, help keep the lights on, and help keep food on the table. And so even through her DAP placement, there were supports in place for grief counseling for her, individual counseling, as well as making sure Mom had those resources as well.
So our last kiddo, one of our elementary counselors shared, is Javier. He is a 9-year-old, and he has been having a lot of behavioral outbursts in his classroom. We talked earlier about behavior being a way for students to communicate, and the counselor had been working with the teacher quite a bit, but Javier was really struggling with just self-management and emotional regulation. And so the counselor started working with him one-on-one, and he disclosed that there had been some domestic violence at home. So the counselor reached out to Mom, and Mom said, yes, we've actually left the home. We moved in. She has 3 kids. They moved in with her sister. And so our counselor made a CPS report so that CPS could start supporting the family. We do guidance lessons in elementary on a weekly basis, and so the counselor really did some targeted intervention, especially with this class, about just self-advocacy and emotional regulation and big feelings. And then the counselor referred Mom to Parent Cafe. And Parent Cafe, all of our specialized positions are trained in, and it's a facilitated parent ed program. So instead of the traditional parents come to a program, we provide information about anxiety or test taking skills. There is a table facilitator that is trained in the model, and they are building community with the parents, and the parents are supporting each other in parenting wins, parenting struggles, resiliency, and just parenting skills in general, which, any of us that are parents know that it's continuing education. And then just really working with the staff to support Javier in how to emotionally regulate his outbursts.
Several of our programs fall under the Choices umbrella, as you can see there. One that I wanted to highlight was our Family Center. LIC really led the pack in being invested in a free counseling center for families and students that operates at night. Since then, we've had several districts reach out to us interested in replicating that model. It is staffed by our LASD counselors who choose to work extra duty at night. And to date, this year, we've had over 750 counseling sessions. It's important to pause for a moment and talk through specifically our drug and alcohol prevention and intervention pieces. We know that the rise in the use of fentanyl is something that we need to have very strategic interventions for. The statistic there that there was an 89% increase in fentanyl-related deaths from 2020 to 2021 is quite staggering. So our HOPE program is an intervention program for both the students and the parents specific to substance use. We've also implemented the fentanyl toolkit that was created by the Texas Education Agency. And as we begin to edit our Red Ribbon campaign for next year, we are weaving that in as well. And of course, the parent and staff education pieces are really important. And we have provided those, and our campuses, the vast majority of our high schools have invited speakers to come in and do an assembly specific to fentanyl and drug use. This is a good slide to share because we're so excited that we're going to get to return to our full-fledged back-to-school fair. In the last 3 years, based on COVID restrictions, we still knew we needed to get the needs met of our students to have school supplies. And so we operated from a deployment model where we delivered the backpacks with the supplies with the kiddos' names on them directly to their campuses. But this year we'll get to return to our full-scale fair where we're going to have additional services like sports physicals, immunizations, and a lot of our community vendors there. So we're excited to do that on August 5th at LHS.
This is just a program highlight. Every one of our high school campuses has had a wellness expo this year. And what a wellness expo is it's pretty much a wellness fair. And so students can sign up to go at lunch, and every high school has reported over 600 students signing up to attend. They have, and a lot of staff are participating as well. So during the wellness fair, I've got some pictures up there. We've had a therapy dog. We actually had a therapy pig named Althea last year. She was a big hit. And we have a lot of internal and external community partnerships. So we have community organizations like the library or the activities like the Community Activity Center in Flower Mound, Thrive in Lewisville. Local businesses are jumping in, a lot of campus groups and clubs, and it's an opportunity for students and staff to interact with wellness. So it might be breathing, it might be a make and take for calm down jars, it might be resources for after school activities, because we know when kids are involved in additional things, they have more connection to school. It's been a huge success. We are looking for ways to expand it next year into elementary and middle school, as well as perhaps an event for our parents. Choices 360 is the college and career software that we have utilized for the past 5 years. We know and we own that we need to ensure that whatever we are using to connect our students to pathways is relevant and is connecting them to all of the opportunities they have, whether it's their course selection, whether it's a career in life, a college major, and weaving in scholarships, financial aid, just opportunities for internships and externships. We have, in the current software we have, there is curriculum that some of our AVID teachers, our CTE teachers are using a la carte, but we continue to scour for ways to either find a program or create a program that is most relevant and helpful to our students. We have struggled a little bit with some parent engagement. We do send out our parent portal letters, but we are looking for ways to re-engage our parents so that they also have access to these resources at home. So this is just some information, and we call it our Future Pathways, that is integrated into our secondary advisory classes, and this is another thing that we're going to be working on integrating some updates into this summer.
So we didn't want to introduce you to our 3 kiddos without giving you a bit of an update as to where they are now.
So Jonathan, I talked to his counselor last week. He's actually passing all of his classes. He did give permission for his counselor to share a little bit about what was going on with him, with his teachers. And so the teachers have been extremely gracious. They have worked with him when he comes in tired. They're checking to make sure that he has what he needs for class or a group project. CPS has been working with his family. That's the ultimate goal, is to provide skills for families to be together. And so the hope is that he might get to move back home this summer. He has shared with his counselor that he has landed on either becoming a lumberjack or a Red Raider. He has not decided. I saw that coming. He has not decided yet. He does know that he wants to do business and work on Wall Street. And so this is something that the counselor shared, that he said, my family and I still have a long way to go, but I know I'm still getting my business degree because it's been my dream for so long.
So Tiffany is back at her home campus, and she's doing really well. She's passing all of her classes, and in one of her regular check-ins with her counselor, she said, I'm learning how to miss my dad and still keep going. My mom isn't as stressed out. We actually went to the movies the other night, and we both smiled.
And then Javier jumped into a group on emotional regulation, and the counselor said she was doing guidance last week, and they were in the classroom. And this is a campus that has calm down boxes in every classroom, which is just kind of teaching the kids, I need an emotional regulation timeout. And she overheard him tell his friend who was getting frustrated with something, friend, you better go over to that calm down box over there before you get mad. So the learner has become the teacher, and his mom shared with the counselor. She said, "Parent Cafe has created a support system for me, and with all the people helping at school, I can see that Javier is happier and doesn't seem so mad anymore."
So in conclusion, we focus on our students being ready to learn, and we know that with our kids and our teachers and our campus administrators and counselors being connected, that we end up with connected campuses who are indeed ready to learn. Thank you.
I want to say thank you so much to Ms. Crow and Ms. Adams for leading our counseling and social work team. You know, a couple of things I wanted to point out. In the 87th legislature with Senate Bill 11, there was the recognition that there needed to be development of a statewide school mental health plan. And so TEA was tasked with doing that, and they published that plan in December of 2020. And I would always encourage anybody that wants to know what's going on in our state with recognition to student mental health to go to schoolmentalhealthtexas.org and take a look at the requirements that the Texas Education Agency has put forward under Senate Bill 11 for schools. But then I also want to point out, you all have a legislative priority regarding supporting policies that improve student and educator health and wellness. And we all recognize that our counselors are a critical, vital staff member and team to supporting our kids. And a lot of times we think about how we do things in LISD, and we think that's just the way it is everywhere. But not everybody puts their money towards school counselors at every single school building. Not everybody puts their money towards student assistance counselors. Not everybody puts their money towards what you all have put it towards, which is social workers, student assistance counselors, and our counselors. And when I think about your priorities, you all have dedicated $25 million as a board to our counseling and guidance and social work program. And you spent $1.3 million of your ESSER funds on taking care of student needs. And so on behalf of our schools and our students, I want to say thank you to all of you for once again putting your money where it's most important, which is on meeting the needs of our kids.
Thank you, Dr. Rapp. Any questions? Sheila?
I don't remember what slide it was, but you had a slide that talked about the touch points and year-to-date percentages. Was there one for high school, or was it?
There is, and it's on the packet. It got left off the slide, or it looked like it got adjusted, so I can make sure that you have that.
Okay, thank you. Mm-hmm. And then my other question, are social workers assigned to all campuses?
They are. We have an itinerant team of 6 social workers, and they split all of our campuses so that every campus has access to one.
Okay. And then the other one is a comment. Thank you for a great report. This is so important. I just think about growing up and having, being impoverished and just, not having a mom and dad. And I really looked toward the schools and my counselors and my teachers. I needed that support to know that I could be better. I could go to college. I could do all these things, even if I didn't have, clothing or proper shelter or whatever the case may be. And I hear people all the time well, not all the time, but a lot of people will use the buzzwords of, social, emotional learning. We don't need to be teaching to that. And I ask them, what does a kid do in my situation, right? Where you have this need, and school is a safe place. School is, I think, supposed to educate or support the whole child. What do you do? And that person said, well, that's the parent's job. Again, I didn't have parents. What do you do when you don't have parents? Well, that's the community's job. And it was sad to hear people use buzzwords to make something that's so necessary, right, for these kids a bad thing. And I just wanted to, like I said, just to give kudos to your department, and this is great. I like the Maslow over Bloom, I think it was, to making sure you can't get to that level of learning or education until those basic needs are met. And so I want us to continue to have those discussions and to educate the community, again, who can be caught up with buzzwords and not really understanding that this is so necessary. We think about ourselves being grown and having mental, just imagine a child. You said elementary school, a child that's my daughter's age, thinking about suicide and depression. And I just want to say it's needed, and I'm so grateful that our district and our board, like Dr. Rapp said, puts the resources to something so important.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the presentation. Could you go back to slide 1 for me, please? I think what Ms. Taylor said was very eloquently put, and that is, for a lot of kids, we are their parents, and we are their support. There is not a kid that is not represented in slide 1. So your department serves every student in this district. Could you remind me what it takes to be a counselor, what the educational and training requirements are?
It requires a 60-hour master's specific to school counseling, and it requires over 300 hours of internship.
So very qualified people, would you say, across?
Yes.
We don't hire unqualified people on our campuses. So I want to thank them for their work, and to say every program up there, 1,000 kids in McKinney-Vento, really, that got me, because that's 1,000 kids that don't have a home. And that's not a small number. So if you don't have a home, probably don't have parents who are parenting you every day because they're struggling to try to get a home. It's our job to step in, and it's our job to provide those supports. And I thank you and your department for doing that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for the presentation. I know y'all have lots of great data, but do y'all have good data that you can send us? I mean, we all know that there's a lot of challenges that our students have had, and I just wonder, is there a trend that we could see pre-pandemic now, just to see in data how much more work that y'all had to do at all the levels? I think that would be, I mean, you had the overall view, but I would love to see specifically the increase in some of the issues that we've had, and I greatly thank you for your work. But I would also say, Mrs. Crow, that you said that the one child that when you were in high school, that when you fed him, that he started doing better. I would disagree with you. I think it was more than that. It wasn't just that you gave him food. You met more of the Maslow's needs by showing attention and making sure that child was more attended to than food. And I think that's probably what made more of the difference than just the food by itself. So, well, I thank you very much for what y'all do.
I just wanted to say thank you also, but I also wanted to say thank you for being a good community partner. You're our staff, and so you're required to perform your duties, but throughout the district, I continue to hear just words of praise and stories of success when you all have been great community partners, whether it be with Communities in Schools of North Texas or CCA or the PTAs, in telling the story of what is offered here in LASD and making sure that the gaps that students have are filled. And so I just wanted to tell you, every time they mention one of your two names or just the counseling departments in general, it makes me so proud. And so thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, guys. You know, I think we know that we're in a world where there's great praise and great criticism. It's in this area from a polarized community. And it's interesting when we talk about, like Ms. Taylor talked about, well, if you don't have parents to do it, where's the community? And often we have community groups come up to us and tell us the work that we need to do. And here's what we know that's generally true. Those people that come up and make those statements are not volunteering in our schools. They don't take into consideration the churches that you get to adopt schools, or partnerships with CCA or Love Packs or Communities and Schools in North Texas. They get focused on the other things that have House bills and Senate bills attached to them and forget all the things that we have to do to educate kids when they walk in the door, because we have to take every kid. And if that kid is exhausted and can't stay awake, if that kid is hungry, we need to feed them. And they'll put all kinds of labels on them that they don't think we should teach. And many of them will vie to sit up here but can't even make a board meeting. And so the things that you do are critical to make sure that we provide a system of education and educational outcomes for all students. And so thank you for continuing to do that. My biggest regret will be not having random drug tests. But that said, I won't be moving away, so we'll see what happens. But thank you for all the work that you guys are doing. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Gall.
Excellent. Thank you so much, President Miller and Dr. Rapp, members of the board. I think I've got it now. Can you hear me now? Okay, so up next, we are presenting on our elementary STEM academies, middle school STEM academies, and you have this update provided by Dr. Jonas Green, Kim Moore, Jennifer Beimer, who oversees secondary science, and then also we have with us Ann Crosby, who is our secondary STEM coordinator, and they will share with you an update on how things are going across the district with our STEM academies this year.
Good evening. We are rounding out the end of our 5th year of STEM Academy implementation, which we started in 2018 at Donald Elementary. We've expanded to 5 elementary schools and 4 middle school locations. So tonight we're going to give you an update on that program.
Good evening. These are our 5 elementary STEM campuses, one in each of our 5 high school feeder patterns. And we have some great news. Like Dr. Green said, this school year marked the 5th year of implementation for our elementary academies, and Donald and Polzer were up for their campus recertification. Each school is on a timeline to receive their campus recertification very soon. Currently, we have over 200 certified teachers, and 45 more teachers are currently enrolled. And we also have each campus ready to get their recert. The difference between a campus school of excellence and a teacher certification is that the teacher certifications are individual, and the campus certification is a collaborative effort with all staff identifying and working towards STEM instructional goals continuously. We collaborate with our communications department every year to market to our community and neighboring districts. Our communications department is very strategic in diversifying the marketing materials to represent girls in STEM roles. Flyers, emails, social media announcements, all of these strategies lead to our increased enrollment at all 5 of the elementary STEM academies. The marketing piece leads to more applications rolling in every year. Here are the student transfers by year, and also I want to highlight the number of students that would otherwise be choosing an out-of-district school were they not selected for one of our elementary STEM academies. In 2nd grade, our students learn about the career of a packaging engineer during the lesson, Don't Lose Your Marbles. Primary students are focusing on learning the engineering design process and making many iterations of their prototypes. In addition to sharing information with teachers on lessons such as these, this year we have implemented the Elementary STEM Program newsletter. This is sharing opportunities for STEM Academy teachers and students to connect with STEM happening in the community, such as UNT Engineering Day or Girl in STEM activities, as well as connecting with Tech East and Tech West so that students can explore their future pathways.
Good evening, Jennifer Beimer. I'm here to talk to you about our middle school update. 6th and 7th graders on these 4 middle school STEM Academy campuses, Creek Valley, Downing, Forestwood, and Hedrick, are participating in the STEM courses this school year. Next year, our 8th grade programming will be added, so we'll be fully built out at our middle school STEM academies starting next year. So the 4 middle school STEM academies completed the National Certificate for STEM Excellence process last spring, and we were able to celebrate them with some banner ceremonies on May 19th. And we appreciate that some of you were able to be there to help us celebrate those campuses. There are 26 STEM science and STEM elective and even other content area teachers across the 4 campuses that hold the National Certificate for STEM Teaching. Again, that is a separate certification process, and it's those teachers that work towards and participate in a STEM leadership team that we were able to accomplish the campus-wide certification in May. We currently have 15 teachers that are enrolled and are working to complete the certificate that were added as staff this year. And so that's just something that we're looking forward to, is that every year as we add staff on those STEM campuses, that they're becoming part of that STEM culture and getting that certification. So I just want to kind of go over the timeline again, and really what is it that sets our middle school STEM academies apart from the other middle schools in LISD. When the campuses launched last year, 21-22, remember it just started in 6th grade. So all of those 6th graders were enrolled in an enriched STEM science course. We also launched our first STEM elective, and again, those 6th graders had the option to participate in that. That's called Gateway to STEM 1. In that first year, we had 301 students enrolled in 16 sections. And as we moved into year 2 this year, we saw an increased enrollment of about 6% with that elective in 6th grade. We were also able to launch our Gateway to STEM 2, and we have 340 students enrolled across 14 sections. So what we're seeing is about 30% of students on the middle school STEM academies are choosing to participate in that STEM elective. Next year, we'll be built out in our STEM programming with all 6th, 7th, and 8th grade students participating in the STEM science, and we're also going to roll out our Gateway to STEM 3 option. And as a reminder, students are able to waive the 3rd year of PE requirement in order to participate in both STEM and non-STEM electives. We just wanted to make sure that they have all of those options and have a true traditional middle school experience and can try lots of other things even outside of STEM. So I'm going to share with you just an experience that we built for our 7th grade STEM Science Unit 2 curriculum called Growing a Solution. So students were challenged to use what they know about microhabitats, biodiversity, and sustainability of an ecosystem to design a home garden that could fit on an apartment balcony or maybe a small garden in their backyard. So they moved through the engineering design process, they created a solution and presented it to peers and experts. And one of the things that they did is they submitted their design via a rebate application. And they talked about the types of produce the garden would generate, the watering system used, and they addressed other criteria and constraints that were part of the problem. At the end, we were able to, the STEM team was able to celebrate some of the students' hard work, and we granted them tabletop hydroponic gardens that they could take home. And they were really engaged in the process, and they could really see this is where our food comes from, and I can have a hand in providing some food security and sustainability in my community.
We continue to offer the Gateway to STEM 1 elective for 6th grade students, and this year we added the Gateway to STEM 2 for 7th and 8th grade students. Gateway to 1 really sets that foundation for STEM by focusing on the engineering and experimental design processes. Gateway 2 students explore STEM connections in health sciences, which has been a really unique experience for a lot of kids. And then they explore automation and robotics during the second semester. We are currently in the planning process to roll out Gateway 3 next year, where students will explore a variety of STEM fields, including engineering, computer science, health sciences, manufacturing, and drone aviation. To connect students with community experts in both Gateway 1 and 2, we continue to work with LISD partnerships. Sixth grade students in Gateway 1 participated in the Stryker STEM Challenge again this year, with our top 3 students visiting Stryker's headquarters. Gateway 2 students connected with a local doctor who was actually a LISD graduate, so that was really interesting for kids to see. And then we also webinared with the Denton County Chief Epidemiologist, who gave us some background as we tried to solve our own outbreak. So interesting things going on there in our medical detectives class. Administrators from elementary, middle, and high school CTE are working to coordinate learning that is progressive and skill level. One example is the building of three-dimensional sketching skills. In kindergarten, students start with hands-on skills, which progress to multi-view drawing in middle school, and then they take those skills to high school, such as in architectural drawing.
So next steps for this program as we move forward. The national certification process for a campus when they first get it is good for 3 years, and after 3 years they have to renew for a lifetime certificate. And so Donald Elementary has already renewed, and Polzer is about to complete their renewal, and so we will continue through those schools as they come up for renewal to ensure that they complete their recertification for their lifetime certificate as a STEM School of Excellence. We're also looking at professional learning for the new STEM electives and the STEM science curriculum as we roll up into 8th grade. And then also at Memorial Elementary, we took K through 3 students last year. They roll up to 4th grade this year. They'll roll up to 5th grade next year. And so looking forward to the Colony High School feeder school for the kids that will be leaving Memorial Elementary after their 5th grade year. And then we will take any questions you have.
I'm glad you said that about the colony feeder pattern, because I was sitting here thinking, okay, I don't remember which middle school it is, and they didn't mention it. So, okay, so yes, that makes sense. We just opened the school not too long ago, so those kids are still matriculating up through, and so we're going to look at that here in the future, yes?
Yes, that's our plan as those kids get to 5th grade and then they're going to middle school, looking for what that pathway would be for them for middle school.
Okay, great, thank you.
I have a question for 8th graders. How do you highlight classes that they might not think of that are probably STEM-based in high school for them to come? Because the course catalog can be overwhelming for an 8th grader to say, oh, this is definitely going to be. How do you highlight that to 8th graders?
So one of the considerations we looked at when we were creating Gateway to STEM 3 is really to coordinate with secondary STEM programs that are offered within LISD, different pathways. And we have worked with the CTE administrators to really coordinate so they can have some of those different STEM experiences before they have to make that scheduling choice. So that did go into our thinking process when we designed that curriculum for that first semester of 8th grade.
Awesome, thank you.
And I would say with our K-12 STEM pipeline, we do a lot of reverse engineering. What is it that what are their options they have available in high school, and how can we expose them to those things in a younger grade level setting so they can make better choices when they get the opportunity to make those choices in the future?
I will also say that our senior campuses have done a wonderful job of sending students and teachers to maybe the STEM Fest or the STEM Nights at some of those schools to really showcase what they have and what students have the potential to participate in as they move into high school.
I had a question about the certification. You mentioned the lifetime certificate. How is that different from just the regular certification? Does that mean they won't have to be recertified again ever?
That's correct. So when they initially do this campus certification, there's probably maybe 20 different indicators. For the recertification, it's looking at, it's kind of a reflective process, and then it's also goal setting. So the indicators for the recertification are in 3 phases, and there's 9 of them. And so, 3 in each phase. And then once they complete that, it's considered by the National Institute as a commitment to ongoing continuous improvement. And so that's how the National Institute will recognize our campuses once they finish that recertification process.
Okay, thank you very much. Chief of Staff, Dr. Miller.
All right, good evening. So we want to continue to provide you updates on the plan as we work through our long-range plan. Remember that this will come to our board meeting April 17th for approval. As we look at the elements tonight, I do want just to remind us all that this plan is meant to streamline our efforts and to not add more things to people's plates, but really to kind of focus us on doing what is not all the work to do, but the right work to do. So we'll consider that as we look at everything tonight. And as you look at this plan, you will see where we have taken feedback from our staff, our families, our students, survey results, and even audit information, and put it into this plan as the work to focus on. So tonight we're going to look at the performance objectives for the different goals, and then kind of discuss what we're thinking for measurable outcomes. So we'll look at that after we look at performance objectives. And everything we look at tonight will really help you for your conversations when you look at board and superintendent goals. And then after that, and I'll talk kind of what you'll see different to discuss with that. And then after that, we'll have everything together for the board meeting on the 17th. And this, I just wanted to put in to remind us that, remember, there are 5 goals. Those goals were established by the Long Range Plan Committee, and those are around the cornerstone. So every cornerstone has a goal, and then resource stewardship has 2, because it's divided up into really fiscally responsible, or how we manage our resources, and then the others around staff. So in your board book, there was a cover sheet. I was super excited that we got all of our performance objectives on one page. So if someone asks, what is it y'all are focused on in LASD? Here is one page that has that information on it. There are 16 of them. They are organized around those 5 goals. And they really help to focus us on our actions. Each year we'll look at those when we're developing our DIP. And then they're kind of helping us chunk out over 3 years of how we can get to the big goal that the committee defined for us. And then we'll talk about what are the measurable outcomes of that, because there are several measures we'll use for each one of the performance objectives. So I just want to walk us through those performance objectives. Those are on your 1-pager, but we have 2 for student learning around the design and delivery of curriculum and instruction, and then around the learning experience of students. Think of CCMR and like interventions, RTI, those kind of things to meet their needs. Student experience has the most performance objectives. When we talked about them, we just felt like we really need, like, safety of our school environment. We really needed to pull that out and not have that merged in. You will hear from what we just heard from the guidance or the counseling and social work, and there's a objective on there about our well-being of students, and also behavioral needs of students. And then, so we have them kind of chunked in, so the learning environment and then the physical environment and safety. For resource stewardship, this is goal number 3, so the first of the 2 of resource stewardship. This is around managing our resources and being responsible not only with the money, the finance part of that, but also with our capital, our people, and their time. And then the next one is on the recruitment, retention, and development of our staff. So we actually have a performance objective for each one of those. What is the recruitment? How do we retain? And then how do we develop those that we have here with us? And then community engagement is really what message is it internally and externally that we are developing capacity and people in as far as LASD, and then how are we utilizing all of that feedback and what we're hearing in order to make decisions and build capacity and trust in our people. And both of those are internal and external, like what we've done this year with our community engagement. So that is 16, and they're around the 5 goals. Okay, so that all fits on one beautiful page. So then, what do we do to ensure that those things aren't just things we've listed on a page and that we said we're working on, but that we're actually monitoring them and watching them over time and then responding to the data we collected? So we are really, it's going to sound nerdy, sorry, but we're really excited about this scorecard that we are developing. So I pulled out just community engagement since I could put it on one slide for you to look at. So we have the 2 performance objectives on community engagement that we just looked at before. And then below where it says 5.11, that is the first measurable outcome that we want to have for the first performance objective. So 5 is the goal. Remember, community engagement is the 5th goal. And the first performance objective and the first measure that we're going to use. So for performance objective of advancing our message, there are actually 3 measures that we are going to use in order to, what is our target? And it's over 3 years. You can see the columns. The green is our target for each year. And then right below that where it says 5.21, that's for our second performance objective. And we have 2 measures for there that we're going to that we have targets for and that we'll monitor and work towards. And then the ones that are boxed in red, those are, so we've set those targets, and that's going to be part of those. It will actually be filled out for you for Monday. So those, we will have our targets set. And then at the beginning of the year, that your current year, what's the actual data at the beginning of the year? And based on that and what our target is, then we will, where it says the status, we will signal. So is our beginning of the year data, is it way far off and we're going to have to make some major changes in order to make sure we reach our goal? Or is it something like, oh, what we're doing, our data is responding and we're going to stay on course for that in order to reach our goal? So you'll be able to see going down like what things are red, what things are blue, what things are, we haven't picked the colors yet, but so you'll be able to see right then. This will also help our principals on what things stand out that, oh, we have to make a shift there, or something like maintain what you're doing that that it looks like we'll be hitting our goal. And then remember that these just year 1, so our target year 1 and we're reporting out, or that's what goes in our DIP for each time. Okay, and then I gave you this big long document just to kind of help you have an overview of what all this means when it's all put together. So we have our goal up top, then you have your performance objective, then you have your measurable outcomes. Remember, the scorecard is going to be all on one page, so you can easily go look at your targets here, but we wanted to include what we're thinking for measurements there. And then strategies. So those are the actual actions that we'll take each year in order to reach the measurement outcomes to reach our goal. The strategies are what goes in the DIP, and just to caution you that we are going to share what we're thinking for strategy year 2 and 3 just to help you see how it builds, but really year 2 and 3 depends on what happens in year 1. So if we do well or don't do well on our target will really guide what actions we'll want to take the following year. And so with that, we will have all of that to put together for to inform for year one, for when you look at board and superintendent goals next Monday, and then the following one we'll have it all put together for the plan.
Just a quick reminder, board, that in January is when you all got to hear the presentation from the committee, of course, that really not only drafted the goals that we've been working on, but drafted the belief statements and looked at the vision and mission statement that you all had worked on back in November. So this has really been a really lengthy process from start to finish, and I'm looking forward to getting this across the finish line with you on April the 17th, the whole package from new beliefs to vision and mission and those goals, and the fact that we would have a long-range plan that fits on one page and concisely says what we're about, what we're working on, and that we're not going to do what we say, we need help with when it comes to TEA in the legislature, but that time is the currency that teachers need. And we've been very careful about thinking about that with staff with this plan. So thank you so much.
Ms. Parsons?
I want to thank the committee's work on this immensely. I think it is really, really good work and work that will last. I also appreciate the fact that this is a semi-permanent document in that year 2 and year 3 are informed by whatever happens in year 1. So it's not set in concrete, but the goal will be semi-permanent, as I like to say. So I look forward to seeing actual numbers in the document when we meet, because as you know, I like to say, a goal is only a wish unless there's something measurable to measure it by. And this looks like it does. And it has the accountability in it that we ask that the entire state, anybody who educates have, that they have some accountability not only to their community, but to their parents and so forth. So I really do appreciate the work.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Miller. Ms. Maloney.
Thank you, President Miller, Dr. Rapp, members of the board. Tonight we have a defeasance and/or redemption of bonds review, and I'll ask Mr. Martin and Michael and John to come up to the podium. They're going to help me with this. This item is really to set up 2 action items later on this evening. Most of this we've covered many times as we have adopted our debt management policy and CCA local. We are looking now at a regular refunding and a tender refunding to also go with our defeasance plan that we're working on this year. At the time of the parameters order that we approved in September of 22, we did not contemplate the opportunity to tender non-callable bonds, so that's why we're back with another parameters order this evening. And we've been working, I don't know that I've ever on a refunding worked as much on one as this one. It is nuanced and different, and we've learned a lot, and hopefully it'll provide lots of opportunities in the future. But along with that, our district's current MA agreement with Hilltop did not include a description of services for a tender refunding. So that action item and agreement is coming back as well. As a reminder, we did do a commitment resolution to defeasance back in August. We will have to bring that back in May to defease the funds that John's going to talk about. And again, our new parameters order is coming this evening and our addendum to the agreement. But the analysis this evening is including our refunding analysis, what we are probable, and John's going to go through that with our tender refunding, and then that defeasance for quite a bit of savings that's going to save taxpayer over time.
Thanks, Ms. Maloney. We're here tonight to talk about the timetable and moving forward on this, really an overall debt management and reduction program, Series 2023, right? So we've been doing this the last several years. This year has kind of an interesting spin to it with the opportunity for the tender. We know that we have the ability, because of some the surplus in our our INS fund to give that back to the taxpayers through debt reduction. So with that happening, that will then allow us to also tag team with accelerating some of our other outstanding debt and moving that up without increasing the tax rate and being able to pay down a significant amount of debt and then accelerate even a more significant amount of debt to where you'll get your overall average life of your debt outstanding will be even crazier lower than it already is, less than 10 years, which you do not see in any other school districts of y'all's size in the state of Texas. So congratulations for the fantastic debt management that you all do. Do you all have the sheet here? Okay. So it just taking you across there, you can see, and there's a lot of numbers on this sheet, but I'll try to identify those. So column 2 there, that is your existing debt service payment structure there. In column 3, that's the current refunding portion. So that's what we're anticipating that would be the debt service payments on those bonds if we leave them outstanding. On the 2020A tender payments, that's a guess. So that assumes that we might get 60% of the 2020As and 2020Bs back. And so that's really reflective of just the 2020A portion. The debt service on the defeased payments that's coming out, that's why they have brackets around those 3 columns, those come out because those are being taken out. That is from the cash that's being used and to purchase the 2020Bs. Those are non-PSF bonds, so it makes more sense to pay cash for that out of your own pocket rather than issue non-PSF bonds. So as you move across, we estimate the new bonds, columns 6 through 10, and you can see the interest rates and yields there that give you a true interest cost based on these market conditions of about 2.75%. So you're accelerating this debt up, and as you can see from the old debt, particularly if you look at like the current refunded payments, that big payment in 2030 of $15 million, and then the tender payments of $19 million, well, there's some significant savings there. Principal reduction, again, we're moving all this up, and that allows us to have significant savings from current refunding in the first year of about $25 million is what we're estimating. And then as you can see, it's offset by the new increase in debt service, so it balances out to where you'll have basically the same debt service next year as you've had this year. That's the whole idea. We don't know right now what the tender is going to look like. We won't know until April 20. So that's when the invitation to tender will go out on Thursday, and they're due back on the 20th. That's a few days before we plan to go to market with the bonds. So once we know and we have a book of who's going to tender, who wants to play ball with us, really, on the 20th, and we look at that book and we determine, is that a good price? Does it make sense for the district? The ball is back in our court at that point in time to determine if we want to actually issue debt and use some of our cash to pay those tendered bonds back. So we'll review that before, and then from that, then we'll have our sizing for our overall bond issue to go to the market for pre-marketing on April 24th, and then ultimately offer the bonds out to the market on April 25th. So the overall savings, as you can see, the is inflated there really in column 15. The taxpayers will realize the savings we're estimating of over $80 million. But remember that about $67 million of that is cash that we're giving back to them, really. So the net effect is about $13.7 million. Still a pretty nice day for the taxpayers of LASD. So again, these are preliminary. They're not set. They're not locked in stone. We don't know if we're going to have a successful tender. If it is, it's a great day. But if not, you got a bird in the hand because of the cash that you all have that we're going to give back to the taxpayers, and we'll be able to move up some of that other debt. So we know that we have a very nice deal regardless. The tender is worth, what we're estimating, is worth about $2 million in additional savings. So it's worth doing. I'm happy to answer any questions.
John, you're my favorite person in the room tonight.
Oh.
I'm wondering where your mallet is for playing whack-a-mole in getting this deal together. I know the work that's gone on, and I want you to know that I really appreciate the idea of the tender and bringing it to us. I think it shows creativity. I think it shows so I think I'll pat ourselves on the back and that we had the financial flexibility to even be able to entertain it. I'm going to hopefully not jinx it by saying I believe we're the first ISD in the state that's going to be going for this. Oh, if you don't, you blow my bubble. I really wanted to be first. I think we'll be first in Denton County. Okay, I'll be first in Denton County. I'm going to take that. I'm going to take that as my win. But I do. I did want to tell you, I really appreciate the work. And the savings has only increased on both of the refunding and on the tender options for us. So I believe it's a little bit more than almost $1 million if you put them both together, that we've increased the savings to the taxpayer. So I just wanted to say thank you, because I do know that you've been playing whack-a-mole and trying to juggle all the balls and spin all the plates. So thank you.
Thanks. The real work comes in 3 weeks when we know what we've got.
John, just a quick question, make sure I understood your math correctly. We're going to spend $65 million and we're going to get back 82 for the taxpayers, correct? So a net
in round numbers, yes.
Yeah, round numbers. And so a net 25% gain by the taxpayers thanks to the district's good management and your facilitation.
Yes.
Thank you.
Hesse.
I also wanted to say that you said the tender, if it does go through, that was an estimate, so it could go even better than that,
right,
which is what we're hoping.
Right. Yeah, we've assumed that we get 60% of them back. We could get all of them back, and then we have to decide which ones, at what price.
Right.
So.
And then I am also very sad to report that there is a Senate or House bill that would make refunding not a non-issue after this session. And so I think it's very sad that they're considering something that's saving our taxpayers' money.
John, thank you very much. Look forward to the next step on this and appreciate you bringing the ideas forward. Ms. Maloney as well.
Thank you. Chris Settle, our bond counsel's here tonight. He helped us with the resolution, the parameters resolution, kind of different work with that adding the tender element to it. And we will, we will be in through the update, through the superintendent's communication to you, we'll update you on our progress.
Thanks again. 23 versus 24 budget. Ms. Maloney.
Okay. Thank you so much, President Miller. Just wanted to give a little update on our fiscal year 23 financial projection. We brought to you in March that sobering information of where we thought we were gonna end up. A little bit brighter forecast today, a little bit less in revenue, and it's just a projection in time, but some significant expenditure savings that are bringing that deficit down. And that's what we're really trying to accomplish. The reason for this is we had higher than anticipated tax collections for March. We've got an issue with our SHARS cost report from 2 years ago, so we're having to negotiate that one, so I backed that out because I'm not going to depend on that until I know for sure. But on the expense side, we've had a commitment from administration to cut non-payroll budgets. We had a less than anticipated March payroll, which could get us some expenditure savings on the payroll side as we watch that over time. And we had better than anticipated fifth 6 weeks attendance, which decreased our recapture payment by about $1.7 million. So positive things there, and because of that, we are still within our 25% on our fund balance policy, as you can see over there, projection on fiscal year 23. And so right now our fund balance requirements are codified by resolution at 25% of the general operating expenditures. So that's 90 days or 3 months. And with our current projection, as I just showed you, we will still be in compliance with our fund balance resolution for the year ending fiscal year 23. We could codify this policy in CE local and the annual operating policy. And then with that, we could possibly, through board committee, add parameters to that policy that will enhance our financial planning and keep our credit ratings at the highest levels. Because credit raters are asking, what is your plan should you fall below what you have self-imposed on yourself for your fund balance policy. I wanted to kind of talk about, I've really taken a good hard look at some policies across the state, and you would be amazed that in CE Local, the variances of what boards put on the parameters on themselves. So 25% of general operating is our policy, 3 months, 90 days. I saw in several, and I provided this to you in an update, 16.67% of general operating expenses, that's 2 months or 60 days. I've seen 20% of general operating expenditures, or 2.5 months, of 75 days. That's the school's first requirement. Target unassigned percentage of general operating expenditures between 17% and 25%. One has no less than 20%, no greater than 40%. So you wouldn't want to maybe build your fund balance over 40%. You would start to maybe pull some of that out to take care of capital projects or one-time payments or things like that. And then the percentage equal to at least 22% of the general operating expenditures unless the board declares an emergency. So what this tells me is these are X policies all across the state. I think we would have some leeway. And also included in that is there are many districts that codify a plan. What if the district falls below the target? What if you have something that happens like COVID? And so, as we're going to see, as our expenditures increase, our fund balance levels will have to also increase. So we're going to have to replenish that fund balance. But a solid long-range financial planning component could include, in the same policy, here are some examples of the language that is used in some of those policies. If the district falls below the fund balance target, within 24 months, we would adopt a plan to restore the fund balance target level, or the goal of the board to reach a target fund balance level within a specified period within 3 years. I just think it may be something that we want to explore to put even further parameters on our fund balance policy. So next steps is with your direction, we would form that board budget committee to get to work on that this summer. And we could possibly bring that back at budget adoption time, much like we did with CCA Local in the last budget cycle. And then I'll turn it over to Dr. Rapp for fiscal 24 update with compensation, follow-up, and next steps.
All right, so the other thing, that we would be doing as well with the board budget committee, and we made a note there too, as we talked about at the budget workshop, that really now's the time to start looking at programs and program enrollment and begin planning already for fiscal year 25 in case the legislature does not increase the basic allotment. As we talked about at the budget workshop, without an increase to the basic allotment, there are some major significant impacts for Lewisville ISD. Ultimately, with fiscal year 24, you all heard from us at the budget workshop about priorities related to compensation, taking your feedback. We had brought forward for you, and it's in your, you've got handouts in your folder around the cautiously optimistic compensation at $12.97 million cost for that, and then prioritized stipends based on input from the March work session, and that was about $2 million. So that total compensation at a cautiously optimistic approach is about $14.9 million. So I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Miller to get feedback from the board as we prepare for Monday night, April 17th.
Okay, before we do that, I think Dr. Bonner had a comment on the previous bullet.
Yes, sir, I did. Thank you. Ms. Maloney, I appreciate the number on the, I think it's the revised items of expense. Just one moment. What slide is that? Slide 79. I appreciate you throwing that up there mainly because it falls into my narrative, if I'm just being honest. $14.3 million in anticipated expenses, April projected, $7 million in ESSER. The remainder is $7.3 million, and I've talked to Dr. Rapp about this. To me, that's the sweet spot in the budget for a normal year. That's about 1.5% of the total expenses anticipated. And like I say, that's a pretty good sweet spot for me, right? Because you're going to have some swing in that. We just have to get weaned off that ESSER money somehow now, right? So if we can get $7-8 million on $50 million of expenditures, I think we're doing good work. And the other thing I would be very interested in is a group like our little group last year on CCA local debt management for CE local fund balance management, just as you anticipated, to look at both. What's our appropriate settling? Where do we want to land? And then also, in the event we dip below where that is, what's our recovery plan? So I appreciate the work on that, and I'm looking forward to moving forward with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bonner. Do you want to start on the compensation piece?
I've talked too much. I'll get out of the way for my colleagues. Thank you.
Turn to the other end. Anybody else want to? Does anybody want to start on the compensation piece? All right, Allison.
So, I mean, my position really hasn't changed from last time. I am personally not ready to approve any raises at this point. I still would like to wait until we see what the legislature does. I think it's the responsible thing to do. And then as Ms. Smith, kind of jumped in and you did a really great rah-rah pep rally for all the great things that we do have. I mean, and it's so true. And I kind of went home that night and I was just, thinking, and because, you feel terrible saying something like that. But, the fact is we can still, we're still planning to give all of our staff 5 days as opposed to 3. I mean, that's a big deal, and then I still think we should do the stipends, everything that's on, where this, wherever that went, this piece of paper, with stipends and stuff. And also and then the third thing is I think we should adjust the positions that you brought up as far as, making the market rate. I believe it was some principles. I think we should do those things, but as far as a across the board raise, I just don't think it's a responsible thing to do yet. I just want to wait.
Hassan?
I have changed my tune, and I would concur with Ms. Lassonde. I do think it is prudent to go back to our old schedule. I love Ms. Smith's advocacy for trying to get it done earlier, completely understand why it's helpful, and that we eventually should go back to that model because it is helpful. I think this session, with the board's confidence of providing a raise or not providing a raise, I think it's the old model of waiting until June-ish, which makes me sad because then I won't be able to vote. I think that's the prudent way to do it because I would right now vote for a raise because I do think that they will have to provide some type of increase to the basic allotment during this budgetary time, or they'll get a whole lot of feedback from our legislators or our educators, or I would hope. And if we can't provide the raises that we need, that's basically a decrease in funding for our teachers because of the inflationary periods that we've been in. And so I still am for number 2 at this moment, but if we had to vote now, it would be hard due to the budgetary constraints that we have right now. That's all.
Thank you, Ms. Hassett. Ms. Taylor?
I always feel really good until we get to the conversations about finance. So I never really know what to say as an accountant. I do understand that we have some serious constraints around finances, and agreeing with Ms. Lassonde about wanting to be financially prudent. And I can take that back and apply it to my corporate job, which I feel like is a little bit different, right? Happy to have this job, you're lucky. Okay, I don't get a raise, but I don't get fired. But I feel like it's different when we're talking about our teachers, because we have these constraints. So maybe that means I don't think I was ever for number 2, that I'm somewhere around number 3, that I feel like you almost have to do something, because we have these other districts that will likely, be able to do something. And we don't want to run the risk of losing a whole bunch of teachers because we didn't do anything, and now we're in dire straits with trying to bring them back or find other teachers. So I guess I vacillate back between, do you do nothing and run the risk of all this happening and you have to run out and try to get teachers if something's approved for the basic allotment, or do you do the most cautious approach but still do something to show the teachers and the staff that even though we're constrained, we want to retain you and we want you here and we want to do something. So I think if I had to vote tonight, I'd vote for number 3, knowing full well what it does to the deficit, but I want to have another discussion about what else can we do so that we can at least do number 3.
You all are making me feel like a spendthrift, which I'm not really used to. I'm a fan of number 2, and if I can just maybe speak to that, it kind of seems to me when the legislature meets, we run into this valley because we don't know what they're going to do or not do. Last year, non-legislative year, we knew what the lay of the land was, so we were in a better position to make some bold moves, right? So I'm going to advocate, if we were voting tonight, Ms. Taylor, I'm with you if we're voting. We're nodding our heads tonight. I'm a fan of number 2, and I want to protect it on the backside with a resolution contingent on legislative action, right? So that's just where I am. I think we need to be cautious for sure, but we have districts around us who are moving forth in a bold fashion for their employees around 3%, and I think we need to do the same, or we are going to have some difficulty in retaining folks. So that's where I am. Thank you.
I believe you put your money where the need is, and I think the need is with our teachers. With the new numbers tonight that Ms. Maloney presented us for the deficit, and an idea I had on the treadmill that I'm hoping legally fleshes out, I'm cautiously optimistic because I believe I talk all the time about investing in kids, and the way we can invest in kids is by investing in our teachers. So with the non-vote tonight, I would vote for number 2.
Side of the table's kind of leaning like this right now. I also would vote for number 2 if this was today. And let me tell you why. And we heard somebody say that, well, if we don't give the raises, then that would give people opportunity for feedback. I think the time for feedback is now. And I am going to, and I hope everybody who is listening to this tonight shares on your campuses a call to action to every teacher and staff person, not on district time, but call your legislator. With the number of people that we have here employed in the county of Denton, we are, as Dr. Rapp says, the economic driver in Denton County. We are the largest employer. If each of those employees would make 2 or 3 phone calls, it's very easy. I don't have, but it is on our website. Your legislators that are making these decisions, that are having these discussions, we can drive all the day, every week down to Austin, but they get tired of seeing us, they get tired of hearing about us, and they need to hear from you. They need to increase the basic allotment. And if it is not for anything else, it's for you. And let me tell you, I love all the stuff that Ms. Smith has led us to. I love LISD. I really do. I would not give my time freely, and it cost us to sit here if I didn't. This has to be a labor of love for anybody to sit around this table. It cost us money. It cost us time. It cost us time away from our children and our husbands or our spouses or our partners. And we don't do it to just be ignored. So when we tell our legislators that due to inflation, this is what we need, that's what we need. We sit right here and listen to one of the top bond people in the state say that we're in top of the state as being prudent and stewards of our funds. But we've got to have partners alongside the legislators to make this happen. And let me tell you, all the stuff we do in LISD, all the days off and stuff like that, I've been there. I don't have a corporate job anymore. I'm officially retired. But what I can tell you is all that stuff was nothing more than a really hard slap on the back, a pat on the back. Because at the end of the day, what counted to me and what made me feel valued was what was put in my bank account every 2 weeks from the city of Dallas. That's what told me that I was doing a good job. So I loved my days off at the city of Dallas. I loved my little $500 bonus at Christmas every year. I loved, all that stuff. But nothing told me my value more than what was on my paycheck. And so I'm going to call to action. So people be ready. If I'm on your campus, I'm going to ask you who called. Because what I don't want to hear is if they don't come through on the basic allotment and we are in dire hurts and you didn't call and you didn't make your voice known, I'm one. I need thousands. Off my soapbox. Sorry.
Who represents me.com.gov will tell them who is their representative, and House Bill 1 is being heard this Thursday, and that's how they fund the state. So call Thursday.
She took it right out of your mouth.
Ms. Hassett beat me to it.
All right. So here's what this is ninth go around for Christy and I. Here's what I would say. One, buckle up. We're voting on the 17th. It's not an option. So build up the wherewithal to vote no, to abstain, which is essentially in the affirmative, but do whatever. But we are voting on the 17th. That is not up for discussion. This is the time when leaders step up. Every time Hassett and I have been on the board and voted for a raise, guess what also came with that? A deficit. Every single time. Even when we put money in the fund balance later, we budgeted for a deficit. Every single time. And never, ever did we achieve the deficit that we anticipated. We just saw movement from a couple weeks ago to tonight on a different deficit view. And we're in a market where we talk big about teachers all the time. We said, well, we'll give you a raise if it's not very risky. We'll give you a raise if we don't have as big a deficit. At the end of the day, if we gave number 2 and the 3 miscellaneous options about $15 million, LISD would not be in dire straits at the end of next year if the deficit came in as projected based on the numbers tonight. We just would not. We would be in a position where we'd be talking about a Vader, which we should have done a couple years ago, but that's where we need our community. So we vacillate to no raise, we vacillate to number 3. Watch what we're going to get, because we're going to pay for it. We're going to pay millions in subs. Still not a fan of going to 5 days. Don't remember that we approved that, but or whatever the number is. I would put the money into the people, not the days. But at the end of the day, this is where leaders are made. And so when leaders say that they're more cautious, doesn't make them necessarily right or wrong. Leaders that say that they're willing to make the decision doesn't say they're right or wrong. Both are coming with it with a perspective that informs them. There will be a motion next week for us to vote on. People will take action in public. I highly encourage people to consider number 2, I would say, and the miscellaneous options that get us to about 15 million. I am comfortable that mid next year we will not be looking at a deficit like this. I have history on my side. If you go back into 2010, 2009, 2011, and look at when the sky was falling, it never fell like it was expected to. People in education need to look at the financial system and look at what actually materialized. I get, if we look at this in a box and say, based on what Ms. Maloney tells us, we're going to be in some sort of deficit, 7 million now, I think is the number, et cetera, versus last time we were going at $10 million more. So we've just reduced our deficit by 10 million. And so do we step up and pay our teachers a good raise, do some adjustments, send a message to the market that we really care? Because here's what I tell you, teachers. All of us have friends that are teachers. Nobody has some unique position that they've got teachers that are friends of theirs. Here's what I tell you they say. They really love hearing it from the dais. You know what matters? When we take action. Not when they hear how good they are or how proud we are of them. It's when we have tough decisions to make that we find a way to make a trade-off and to look into the future and say it's time to move forward. We changed this cycle last year or the year before, I can't remember, last year because we saw other districts doing it. We're seeing other districts doing it now. We can sit back and wait till June. If y'all think that the legislature is going to come up with some miracle, let me tell you the other thing that's happened in the last 9 years. It's never happened. Never happened. It's false promises. So I hope that based on the letter we have tonight that we get 13, whatever it was, Lori, $13 million more, $900 per student, that yields $13 million. If we were to get that money, that's just half, by the way, the difference of the $8,000 they're offering for SAs. If we were to get that money, we're not in a bad financial position. We're going to have some moderate level of deficit spending, and I think we just need to remember that this is the tough task of being a trustee. It is not irresponsible to take and vote for number 2 or to do it in April. In fact, I think it sends a message to our people that we care enough that we don't want them to leave. Attrition in any business is one of your highest costs. It's the reality of it. So,
I have a comment. And Ms. Lasan, just real quick, I'm so sorry, but I just want to be sure that I make clear that the only reason we were able to move the needle on reducing the deficit between March and April, a couple of things Ms. Maloney spoke to, yes, increased attendance and all those things, but ultimately, as you all know, I'm asking administration to make a significant cut right now prior to this school year. So I just want to be sure, as you said, we'll make adjustments, and we are doing that from an administration perspective, and I appreciate the leadership team on working with me to ensure that we get that deficit down so you all don't drop below your 25% of expenditures in this fund balance cycle. And then, of course, the forecast, we're going to do a 15% cut as well to budget. So I just want to be sure that that's said. I'm sorry, Ms. Lasan.
Oh, that's okay, Dr. Rupp. I'm sorry. If you don't mind, I am fully ready to make a commitment to our teachers, and I think I have the 5 years that I've been on the board. I feel like this year is different. We're starting out the budget next year, $30 million in the hole. We have started out the year. This year was what we thought it was going to be. What, 14 million or so? Anyway, and I feel like it is very different. And when we do vote, I'm happy. I will feel much better about it. And much, I'm fully ready to vote for any one of these plans. 2, 3, for the first one, the second one, I don't care. I was raised by a teacher, my entire life. So I know what it is like. I lived that. And so, to be insinuated that, we're not ready to step up and be leaders, I take offense at that, because that's exactly what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to make a good decision for our board. And we've just said this 50 times. This is the first year we've ever done this in April. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm saying put it off. If you want to vote on it in a couple of weeks, that's fine. But that's my opinion. And, you're free to express yours just like I am mine.
Thank you. My point is, I don't think people who are interested in delaying exhibit any more wisdom or knowledge on the entire topic than the people that would decide to move forward. I think it washes itself out. We've looked at $20-30 million deficits before. It's not a surprise to us. LISD has actually looked at $30 million deficits before. We did actually vote on this last June, so it's not the first time we did it. At the end of the day, I believe that there's healthiness and diverse perspectives. We'll get a chance to display that at our regular meeting. It will be on the agenda for an action item. So with that said, we'll move to the next item, which is the GMP for band towers at all 5 schools project.
Thank you, President Miller. Mr. Fide will make his way to the table, and we'll present this item.
Good evening, President Miller, Dr. Rapp, and the board. So tonight I'm here to discuss the guaranteed maximum price for the band towers at all 5 high schools project. Just a quick reminder, last month you approved a preliminary GMP for this project in the amount of $200,000 so that subcontractors could be signed up early to begin shop drawings and fabrication of the towers. So tonight we're here to present the full GMP. The guaranteed maximum price process was presented to the board in an information item at the February 12th, 2018 board meeting. The band towers at all 5 high schools project has been advertised and competitively bid to subcontractors by Hill & Wilkinson. The bids have been evaluated and scoped for this project, and Hill & Wilkinson has provided a GMP of $1,700,908, and that price does include the $200,000 that was previously awarded last month. So this GMP will be brought back as a consent item on the April 17th consent agenda. And with that, I'll answer any questions that you may have.
Okay, Randy got by with that one pretty clean. Now it's meals. That's not you.
Thank you.
And for the next item, for meal prices for the 23-24 school year, I'll ask Mr. Turner to come up to present this item.
I wrote Mike down, Ms. Hassett, in my notes. Yes. Good evening, President Miller, Dr. Rapp, members of the board. Tonight we have a brief update, as we do each spring, regarding meal prices for the upcoming school year. As a quick reminder, because the district participates in the National School Lunch Program, we are required to follow the paid lunch equity tool in setting student lunch meal prices for the upcoming school year. However, this year we have already been notified that LISD does qualify for an exemption to the PLE, and so it will mean that we are not required to raise student lunch meal prices for the upcoming school year. Also, as we've shared over the years, unfortunately adult meals do not use the same calculator, and there is no exemption for for lunch meals for adults, including breakfast, and so each summer, we're actually expected to recalculate the adult meal prices and set those according to those calculations at that time. USDA pricing requirements do not apply to a la carte pricing. That is things such as snack items, chips, things like that that are purchased not as part of a reimbursable meal. Those are typically set prior to the school year, and of course those are often adjusted based on cost and availability of items. However, our practice has been to maintain that pricing throughout the school year once we've set it there at the end of the summer. We've got some information just to share with you on how we've typically increased prices using those calculators. And as you can see, typically that's an incremental increase of around 5 to 10 cents per meal item each year. Breakfast meals kind of stand out as a little different. They're not covered by the paid lunch equity. It's set mostly by food cost and that sort of thing. And so we've been able to, as a district, maintain fairly consistent breakfast meal pricing over the years. Usually it's a 3 or 4 to 5 year period before we increase that. And a couple years ago, we increased that by 10 cents to account for some rising food cost. And you can see the same thing on the adult meal prices. With a couple years ago, a little bit of a larger increase in the adult meals. That was when the TDA had come back and said we had to make sure that that got corrected in the fall. Looking at the next couple of slides, we've got a couple of tables on some of the comparable or comparison districts in the area and the meal prices that they have set for student breakfast and or lunches. And you can see our current meal prices are at a little below the average of the comparison districts and on the lower end of each of our comparison districts, currently at $1.35 per breakfast meal. For lunch, we're at $2.85 for the elementary lunch prices and the $3.10 for the secondary. And again, that was utilizing the paid lunch equity tool previously, and this year we are exempt from needing to use that for the meal student lunch meal prices. And so just to conclude, in the late summer, just before school starts, we'll get the calculator numbers for the adult meals, and we will be required to set those accordingly, and we will notify you guys in the superintendent's weekly update of that change at that time. However, maintaining the current student meal pricing for lunches and breakfast requires no further action by the Board of Trustees. I've got Kim Stafford, our Child Nutrition Program Administrator, with us. Alberto Garcia, District Manager for Aramark, is in the audience as well if you guys have any questions for us tonight. Otherwise, that's what we have.
Remind me, yeah, don't hop up yet. Remind me, obviously free lunch is free lunch, but what is the reduced percentage on the rates?
Our current reduced percentage?
Yeah. Not total
Price.
Population, but on the price. Yeah,
On the price, 30 cents for breakfast and 40 cents for lunch.
Okay, so very reasonable.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
That was an easy one, wasn't it? Thank you very much. All right, we're going to look at the consent agenda now. Ms. Maloney, here you go.
Thank you so much, President Miller. You'll be able to utilize your consent agenda preview as you review the consent items for the April 17th regular meeting. So for anything that's coming new for the first time, the first one is adding the 791 Purchasing Cooperative. It's no cost to the district to join this purchasing cooperative. It's just adding an additional co-op through Region 15. Just to help with value and time, just by putting that out there for our folks to utilize. On the second item is engineering, surveying, and related professional services for Castle Hills. We have an issue with the fire department needing the ability to circle the campus, and we've been writing to you about this in the superintendent update. What they are needing to do is to connect between two existing fire lanes. We have used the civil engineer, McAdams Civil Engineering firm before, and that is who is going to do that work for us so that we're able to, again, compliance with the fire department out there at Castle Hills Elementary. The school pictures for secondary, this is a multi-award vendors that will be award our principals. We have principals that serve on this committee. It's really a net zero cost for the district because we are getting commission on the school pictures, and so we're wrapping that up to bring to you and consent at the meeting. On telecommunications products and services, this is to provide those traditional telephone lines, or what they call POTS, their landlines and our data lines. And those traditional telephone lines will still work even if the internet is down, and that is a source of safety and required. And so that bid, Mr. Colbeck will be bringing in consent. The job order contracting for minor construction, it's just, but we want to be able to have that option via cooperatives. We don't project anything to come over $50,000. If it did, we would bring it back to you, but the average price on things of this nature are around $6,000. So it's just having that option via cooperatives. Now getting into some annual purchases in our renewal. We have our third-party administrator for benefits that's coming back up, and that's going to be our employee benefits program. It includes disability income insurance, group term, life insurance, dental insurance, group legal, vision, et cetera. One thing we are anticipating that this is kind of exciting for our employees is that we're bringing on a Roth elective that's going to be added as an option for staff beginning in April of 2023. And so that'll be in addition to 403Bs and 457Bs that we currently offer by the district. It's a great option for our employees. No cost to the district except for the estimated annual expenditures under the Affordable Care Act for tracking and reporting. And I would probably consider that an unfunded mandate. So that should have been in red that we don't receive any funding for that mandate. Our Airmark bid is coming back for renewal. We are on year 2 of a 5-year option on this. The approval of this bid does require TDA approval before you can renew, and we do have that approval from TDA. And so it also provides that guaranteed return of $1.2 million. We are bringing modular buildings, like if we needed to move portables in the summer. We don't have any plans at this time to relocate any portables, but we want to be ready just in case we would need to do that during the summer when the students are not here. And the last item on there is renewing our RevTrack, or our online payment services. It's a renewal on a cooperative contract. We've used them for 10 years, and that's all of our online payments that our parents do. The best thing about this, of course, is it limits our cash handling with our web store, and it is usually offset. It's offset by fees. The cost of this is from those credit card payments.
Any questions? Okay, let's move on. 2023-2024 audit recommendations. Ms. Brosnick.
Good evening, Mr. Miller. On behalf of Dr. Bonner and Ms. Lasan, it is that time of year where we bring forward the audit for next year for the committee to look at. And this year we're only recommending one audit, which is procurement and contracts. It is the last of the higher audits that we have. We have transportation is still in process and should be reporting out in June. I'll be happy to send you the report. But that time, if you have if there are any, so at this point, once it's approved, if it is approved in April to move forward with this, then Mr. Martin can get on to reach out to our approved vendors, and we can begin the process. So it can also be part of the 23-24 budget. Happy to entertain any questions.
You've identified the audit in April. We would approve which audit that is. That will go to procurement. Procurement will submit that to the 3 identified suppliers. They will come back to you, hopefully in May, and you'll be able to make a selection. There'll be a reappointing of the committee under policy, and then you guys will move on with that audit.
Yes, the goal would be to approve everything for next year at the June work session or at the June meeting. Okay.
The next item is board committee updates. Let me just go through some of these. If anybody has a committee, Jenny just spoke about audit. That is an audit by policy. Debt strategy committee. Anybody want to comment on that? I think we saw the benefits of some of that tonight, so thank you very much for the work and the framework that's going to survive a long time. Hassett's wanted this for a long time. So she's going to be happy that this one. Employee Awards Committee, Ms. Sells?
We will be honoring our employees on April the 20th, and we
Yeah.
look forward to it.
We look forward to it. We'll do something a little special. We'll have a little fun, too. Are we going to have fun? Oh, Brim says no fun. I don't know about Brim, but, we're going to have fun. Okay. She's going to have fun managing us.
Yeah, it's the 21st. I said the 20th, sorry.
Okay. I'm going to come back to the Naming Committee, Finance Audit Committee. I believe this is actually relative to the financial report, the CAFR. That would generally be the officers. We're not doing anything at this point. That would be the new officers for the CAFR for the current year. Governance Committee? Anybody on the Governance Committee? Okay. Legislative Advocacy Committee, that was Buddy, Christie, and I. We've got nothing to report because y'all have taken over in a good way and done a great job. I sent all three of you an email today, so I mean it to all three of you. Really, we've got some good insights of what's going on. Superintendent eval, instrument, and committees. Dr. Bonner?
Pending action upcoming in the next couple of months to conclude the performance evaluation of our wonderful superintendent, Dr. Lori Rapp. Look alive on your email in the next several days.
Okay, the last committee is the Facility Naming Committee, and I am, at the request of people who have instantiated the process for the naming of a football arena, put a committee together. That committee is Ms. Taylor, Ms. Hassett, and myself. We have received plenty of communication. Here's what I would offer. Sending us 100 more letters won't make a difference. The committee has started, and we've started doing our due diligence. There are things that we have to do behind the scenes to make sure that we're thorough and we fully vetted this. What I would say is if there are people who have an alternative point of view of what that stadium should be named, they ought to come out and make their statements known, but we're well aware of the current desire of those sending us notes to name that after a previous football coach, and we appreciate their desire to want to honor him. So if people have alternative views, this is the time to provide that. We are not slow rolling this. We are just being thorough. Remember, there are things that have to happen. You have to approve facilities to put names up and different things like that. So there's a lot of things that we have to do to engage the community, hear from them, hear different factions, and there usually are factions when it comes to naming things, but maybe there won't be this time. But that's where we're at. Just want the public to know we have started that process. So if there's no other items, we do have items, actually. Ms. Maloney, consider approval of addendum to municipal advisor MA agreement.
Yes, President Miller, this is one of the two action items that we spoke about in the discussion item for the defeasement. It is adding to our MA agreement the consulting services for tender refunding, and just to know that the contingency fees associated are in line with our current MA compensation schedule, and the amount of fees to be paid will be determined by the tender transaction.
Mr. Miller, I move that the board approve the proposed addendum to the municipal advisory agreement with Hilltop Securities Incorporated and all related expenditures.
Yes, thank you. And the second action item this evening is to submit the parameters order that would include the tender refunding that was not established in the parameters order that we passed in September.
Okay, we have a motion. Ms. Hassett?
I'd love to move to adopt the order authorizing the issuance and sale of Lewisville Independent School District unlimited tax refunding bonds in one or more series.
Second, Ms. Sells. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. Motion passes 7-0. If there's no further business, this meeting is adjourned at 8:48 p.m.